Make your next vacation unforgettable. On Royal Caribbean's newest ship, Star of the Seas, it's everything you've loved about every family vacation you've ever been on, with mind-blowing thrills at the largest water park at sea, 7 onboard pools for every level of chill, more than 40 ways to dine and drink, and even more to enjoy at our award-winning private island, Perfect Day at Coco Cay. This is the new Star of the Seas. Click or tap the banner to find out more.
It's back to school season, and Clorox is donating 2 million disinfecting wipes to classrooms across America. Because back to school means things can get a little bit messy. Just ask kindergarten teacher Miss Gibson.
Give me just one Clorox wipe and I'm ready for glitter glue, exploded lunchbox yogurt, peanut butter handprints, runny noses, picking noses, rubbing noses.
Touching noses.
Thank you, Edward. Ooh, nap mats and lockers and tissue boxes. And
Clorox
scissors.
disinfecting wipes. Teacher's #1 wipe. Clean feels good. Based on unit sales data.
This podcast is part of the Robots Radio Rocket Club, a program designed to help all podcasts reach their full potential. For information about joining the Robots Radio Rocket Club, check out robotsradio.net.
Hello, and welcome to the Assassin's Creed Lorecast. My name is Austin, also known as Teacup.
And my name is Shelby, also known as She-Cup.
Join us as we embark on unraveling all of your favorite mysteries from the Assassin's Creed universe. From assassins to Templars to the mysterious Isu and more. We will seek to uncover it all, so join us and maybe even take a leap of faith.
Hey, Austin.
Hey, Shelby.
Are you ready to talk about Assassin's Creed?
Yes, I am.
Awesome. Me too. And welcome to those of you who are listening. Welcome to the Assassin's Creed Lorecast. We are so excited for our topic today. Right, Austin?
Yeah.
All right. What's our topic? Tell them.
Well, last week we talked about the Animus, which is kind of the thing that begins it all. So today we're talking about the name of the game. We are talking about the Assassins Brotherhood, or the Brotherhood of Assassins, the Hidden Ones, all of that kind of stuff. We're talking about where they came from, kind of what's happened, where they are. So are you ready?
Yes, kind of. I think there's going to be a lot of stuff in here that we talk about today that I am not familiar with, which is okay. But for those of you who are listening, I finished Origins and have now moved on to Odyssey.
Yes. Okay. So we're going to start at the beginning because, to quote Sound of Music, it's a very good place to start. When do you think the Assassins begin?
Are you asking me?
Uh-huh. Like, when do you think they trace their origin back as an organization?
Tobias?
You are incorrect.
Okay, tell me more.
The Assassins in legend trace their lineage back to Adam and Eve.
Okay, that's a long time.
Yes. So, it's a long time. So for those of you who don't know, if you've never done the task of finding all the hidden glyphs in Assassin's Creed 2, you might not know this, but Adam and Eve in this universe, and I want to specify this, in this universe, I'm not making any kind of claim about Adam and Eve in the world that we live in and know. So Adam and Eve in this universe are Isu hybrids, which means that they contain kind of both human and Isu DNA. So they're kind of that, and they are in this kind of slave, as the Isu are kind of enslaving humanity and all of this. They steal, or Eve specifically, steals an apple of Eden, which is, we'll get into pieces of Eden on a future episode, but they're like little orbs that you can use to create illusions, to influence the mind of the people around them. So they steal one, and they then lead a rebellion to fight for the free will of humanity. And this is kind of the thing that really puts like some assassins to say, we started with Adam and Eve. because they are fighting against oppressors to liberate the free will of humanity. They're the first ones to safeguard the free will of humanity.
Okay, but here's my question. Couldn't they argue that anyone who's fighting against oppressors for the free will of their people is an assassin? If this is what they trace their lineage back to?
So you're talking ideology versus in like membership into a organization. So there's a difference between fighting for the same ideology and being an assassin.
Right.
So, but what I'm saying is they say that Adam and Eve are the first people to do that. And that's where their movement and their brotherhood began.
Okay, I understand.
Right. Which this is their believed beginning as opposed to what might be the historical beginning.
Okay. So here's another question. In this scenario, does that make the Isu like God?
So in this scenario, humanity viewed them as gods in the story.
Okay.
Whether or not that they are God is they claim that they are not gods, that they were just venerated, but a lot of Isu share names with mythologies that are around the world, like Juno, Minerva, Jupiter, like all of these people. And even in Assassin's Creed 2, when you encounter a memory of Minerva, she says, you know, Jupiter, who was once called blah, 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 you know, like all these different names. That kind of like think the Eternals.
Okay.
If that helps with the
Yeah,
Isu.
that definitely helps.
But not from another world. They are inhabitants of Earth.
Okay. Let's move on. Sorry.
So that's kind of the first, what the Assassins consider the first group that establishes this idea that they start doing. Mm-hmm. And so next we kind of get several groups of people that are all happening within like 500 to 400 years of time, these different groups that pop up during different conflicts. So the first group that we know of is the Artabanas group, which this is a group that operates in the Persian Empire, which if you don't know, the Persian Empire is kind of like modern day Iran, Pakistan, like that area of the world ish, and maybe down into Iraq and that area too. So that's the Persian Empire. And this group fights for freedom while Persia is ruled by King Xerxes the First, which if you might sound familiar, if you've seen the movie 300, that's King Xerxes is there. There are several King Xerxes. There's a King Xerxes mentioned in the book of Esther. I don't know if that's King Xerxes the First or what one of his descendants or not. We don't really know because it just says King Xerxes. So that's kind of like where we are. And for more information about this group, you can play the Legacy of the First Blade DLC in Odyssey, which you kind of like follow around with what's happening. But you find this out pretty soon. King Xerxes is the first person ever assassinated with a hidden blade. At least first recorded use of the hidden blade. So the next group kind of happens around the same time because these empires are around at the same time. It's called Ilanti's group or the Babylonian Brotherhood. And so they're operate in Babylon, which is another empire around the same time as the Persian Empire and all of that going on. But they kind of operate during Alexander the Great's time as Macedonia kind of keeps coming up and doing all of this stuff. And so this group actually assassinates Alexander the Great, who is allied with the Order of Ancients, which is kind of a proto-Templar group. And so Ilanti's statue, believe it or not, can be found in the Villa dei Auditori in Assassin's Creed 2. She is one of the 6 assassin tombs that you have to find to unlock the armor of Altair. And then obviously, as another proto-assassin group, we have Cassandra, the Eagle Bearer, a Greek mercenary, Mystios, if you want to do that, known for fighting against the Cult of Cosmos and Order of Ancients, who uses very other allies who kind of join her, from the historian Herodotus to the philosopher Socrates, Socrates, as they call him in the game, and other to, the king in Athens, to a bunch of other people. And then the more direct, I would say, descendant of what we know as the Assassins Brotherhood comes from the Magi of Egypt, which they're kind of like established as an organization in Egypt. And, Bayek is born into his father is a Magi. And so as he's kind of born into this, but pre-Bayek and the events of Assassin's Creed origin, the Egyptian Empire, the Ptolemies, they kind of move against the Magi. And it's kind of like this, you see this switch because the Magi start as guardians of the Pharaoh, and Bayek kind of talks about this. But now Bayek, when he's kind of the last of the Magi, him and Aya, he talks about that the Magi are guardians of the people. And you kind of see that, again, assassin ideology coming in of these guardians of free will. And so all of these groups kind of in this 400 years of a very time of turmoil in the ancient world, because Babylon falls, the Persian Empire falls, the Greeks kind of come in, Cassandra's during the Peloponnesian War, which is a big war between Athens and Sparta. They're at the center of these groups. Cassandra's fighting for kind of the free will of humanity, more just the freedom of another person. I won't spoil that because that's where you are. But you get these ideologies are coming up again and again in these different groups.
It's really interesting because all 4 of these groups, so you have the Artabanas from Persia, the Ilanti from Babylon, Cassandra from the Greeks, and Bayek Magi of Egypt. It's interesting because each one of these kingdoms, they either fall to each other or to Rome. So I guess my question is are the Romans super Templar heavy?
Yes, because, and we'll get into this in our Templar episode.
Yeah.
Julius Caesar is the first father of understanding, which is kind of the identical figurehead of the Templars. I think it's more of an idea than it is an actual person, because we've never met a father of understanding unless, until Septimius in the battle with Aya says he is the father of understanding. It's more of a thing that Templars say, may the father of understanding be with you. Kind of similar of Christ be with you, or peace be upon you, or other sayings like that. So there is this idea that Rome kind of starts this Templar movement, but it's also not, because the Order of Ancients traces it's in Persia, it's in Babylon, it's in Greece. These are, so.
Yeah, I was just curious. We don't have to spend too much time on that.
Right. So, as we know, at the end of the events of Assassin's Creed Origin, Bayek and Aya form what is called the Hidden Ones. And I want to bring in a quote from Aya that she says about what the Hidden Ones actually are. When we assassinate, only those who deserve it. The few sick souls who try to control us. But they will never know who we are. Cold, calculated poets of the kill. So this is what Aya says about the Hidden Ones.
It's very Aya.
Yes. And it really kind of, I think it sets up this idea that the assassins are the protagonist of the games and the universe. But I don't think they would classify themselves as good people or the good guys. In fact, there's a conversation that happens in Assassin's Creed 2, which is what I'm playing through right now, with Desmond and Sean Hastings. Desmond essentially says something, it's good to be away from Abstergo and working for the good guys. And Sean Hastings says, whoa. Good guys is a little too far. We assassinate people. It's in our name. We guardian free will, but don't think of yourself as a hero.
Yeah, I definitely see that even with Origins. Like, I think you can say Bayek is a good person, but I don't know if you can say the same thing about Aya. But I do think they're noble. They may not be good, but they have noble intentions.
And, you can make your judgments however you want. There is the old saying, hell is paved with good intentions.
Good intention. With
Yeah.
the road to good intentions.
So, but that's what they say about themselves. I just thought it was an interesting quote that, Aya begins with this cold, calculated poets of the kill. Which it kind of deems like killing with a purpose. So for the next 20 years, the Hidden Ones operate all across the Roman Empire, going up into Britannia, all the way east to kind of modern day India. And this all happens in the 1st century. And so they kind of establish themselves in the Roman Empire all across it. Aya's founding bureaus in Rome, Bayek's over in the Middle East, and there's more about those in the Assassin's Creed Origins DLCs, both the Hidden Ones and what's it called? The other DLC, whose name I cannot remember for the life of me. So that's okay. Someone on Twitter will let me know.
You say that all the time. Do they ever let you know?
No.
Okay. You should keep that in.
I will. So, obviously, the Roman Empire doesn't last forever. It falls like other empires before it. And so the collapse of the Roman Empire is detrimental to the assassins, because as the Roman Empire has kind of established itself, the assassins have kind of infiltrated their way into the Roman Empire, and they've kind of allied themselves with the Roman Empire. And so as the Roman Empire collapses and you're dealing with all these tribes like the Picts, Scots, and Celts in Britannia, and all of these other kind of like barbarian tribes, for lack of a better word, indigenous tribes outside the Roman government begin to move in, the assassins can't handle them and they're forced to pull out. We can learn kind of about this in Assassin's Creed Valhalla as we visit different bureaus all over England. But I have one that's taken from the London, kind of codex that's taken from the London Bureau that I think is really interesting about the perspective of the assassins, Hidden Ones, during this time. For years, we have scratched at the pillars of an empire, toppling one or two when the foundations seem too strong, and the weight of one Caesar's ambition seemed too pressing. But there is a limit to how many supports a building may lose before it topples to the ground. We might have been more careful, we might have been more selective, more cautious in our approach to liberty.
This is really interesting to me, and I know I don't have the full perspective of all of the games, but, I have watched you play one, I've played Origins now, and now I'm in Odyssey.
And you've watched me play a lot of...
Well, that's true, but I wasn't really paying attention then, to be honest. But what's interesting to me is, like, Aya and Bayek, at least, during the game of Origins, seem so opposed to the Roman Empire. And, like, of course they do ally with them for a little bit in the game, but they soon learn that was the wrong step. And so I just feel like it's really interesting that this organization that they founded, and when they founded it, they, hated Rome. Like, Aya assassinates Caesar. And then it turns into an organization that has allied with Rome. I find that really interesting.
Well, to me, it's kind of like an idea of, like, play the Templars at their own game. Like, so the assassins start trying to create relations, and the hidden ones, as they are at this point, start to try to create relations with people of power who are placed in there. And it's kind of that idea, like, rarely does a Templar or assassin take power for themselves. They're always behind the scenes kind of running things, which makes sense, because when you want that kind of things, you don't want, especially from the Templar perspective, you don't want to be the person who has to do the day-to-day business of running a country or empire.
Well, nor do you want the attention, because then you're begging to be assassinated.
Right, or investigations to happen and you expose, right. So, but this is an important thing about, like, the relationship of the Hidden Ones to the Roman Empire, because the first assassination of the Hidden Ones is Julius Caesar. Like, of the official, from when Bayek and Aya say, we are the Hidden Ones, after the death of Flavius is when they do that. Julius Caesar is the first assassination. Aya beats Septimius in combat, and, like, you can go back and watch the scene, and I recommend it because it's a really well done, like, designed and scene with callbacks to Julius Caesar's assassination and other things like that. But, like, that's the first, what I would consider, assassination. So yeah, that's interesting, their kind of relationship there with the Roman Empire. But I think it's more of a thing to, like, kind of play on the Templars' terms, or the Order of Ancients' terms.
Yeah, I see that now that you say so.
Yeah. So after this, the Hidden Ones kind of abandoned the western part of what was the Roman Empire, which is, like, Spain, Britannia, Germany, and even Rome to an extent. And they focused more on the eastern part of the empire, Constantinople, the Holy Land, all that kind of area, Northern Africa, Egypt. And so they kind of remain there for hundreds of years until the 11th century CE.
Oh, wow. That's a long time.
Yes. There is kind of this move in... I'm skipping the events of Assassin's Creed Valhalla because I don't want to spoil what happens, but the Assassins kind of move over into Britannia and, in a way, kind of getting a little influence up into Norway and the kind of Viking area. And so that's important. But that's all happens in Assassin's Creed Valhalla, which, as new as that game is new, I don't want to spoil that. So we don't know a lot about the time between, the leaving of England and, like, the collapse of the Roman Empire and where the start of the series is, which is around the 11th century, 12th century CE. And so we got a lot of issues kind of going on there, but this is when the games start, is in this area, when the Hidden Ones adopt their name as assassins. And so the etymology of this is really interesting. So once again, a guest appearance by assassin historian Sean Hastings. He speculates the name might have mere adoption of the name Hashashin, which means hash smokers, and it's a more, like, kind of Arabic term. And it was used as kind of like an insult to the Brotherhood as they were operating. But because, and you'll see this in Assassin's Creed 1, often the assassins are referred to as heretics. And this is because the official like religious belief of the Assassin Brotherhood is either agnosticism or atheism, outright atheism.
And it's set during the Crusades, so.
Right. So they're heretics both on the Crusader front and the
religious front.
Yes, or Saladin's people, the Islam in that term, but they have a Saracen is what they are.
Okay, cool.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. Here's a question. I know this is a little off topic. So you just said that the Assassins' official religious beliefs are agnostic or atheist.
Correct.
So what are the Templars?
For another episode.
Okay. Well, let's keep going.
Yeah. So they kind of changed to this assassin name, which you can kind of see that, like, Hashashin, assassin, they're similar words. Which, if you know, a lot of cultures eliminate that H. So, like, assassin would, if you take the H's out of Hashashin.
Yeah, I see that.
And so they start operating, and eventually kind of where the main group of assassins come through. There's other groups at this time, but for time's sakes, we're going to focus on the one we know a lot about, which is the Levanthian Brotherhood. I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly, which is led by Al-Mulin. At this time, they come under control of him, and this is where Assassin's Creed 1 starts. While we follow Altair and the events of the Third Crusade. If you want to play that game, it's on sale on Xbox right now. I will take my advertising money now, Ubisoft. And yeah. So that kind of happens, and not to spoil a lot of things, but at the end, Altair does end up taking over the Assassin Brotherhood there. And so, post-Crusade, the Assassins start to kind of like regain control of the known world, is where they go. Altair and other Assassins leaders kind of like see like, okay, we've dealt this big blow to the Templars with the Third Crusade. So let's move in to kind of like reestablish this. And there's several things. I'm going to hit on what I think are the big ones. But there's a lot more to them. That we can go into, and I'm planning on going deeper into more of these movements as their own episodes, because there's a lot to talk about. So
yeah, we could be here for hours and hours and hours.
Right. So first one, we're going to talk 1215 CE. King John of England. He comes under Templar influence, and so the leaders of the assassins there decide to lead a rebellion that eventually ends up resulting in King Henry III becoming King of England. And there's a lot of tension between the assassin leaders in that moment, but that's basically what happens. So already the assassins, right from the get-go after the Crusades, are like, okay, let's get the people we want to support in power here. In a simple thing, around 1227, Genghis Khan and the Mongols are starting to make their conquest in East Asia. And so Altair sees them as a threat. He sees the Mongols as a threat. So he takes a bunch of assassins out of Masyaf to go and deal with Genghis Khan, which eventually leads helping the Chinese assassins take down Genghis Khan.
Is that in the main game, or is that a DLC?
That is off screen. It is done through, I'm assuming, a couple comics and done through Codex. The assassin that kills Genghis Khan is one of the 6 assassins' tombs that you find in Assassin's Creed 2. He kills him by shooting him off his horse. So, and another fun fact, I forgot to mention this earlier in the episode, Aya is also one of the 6 assassin tombs that you find.
In China? Or
no,
in
Assassin's Creed 2.
That's interesting.
She's Amunet, which makes sense because she starts the Brotherhood in Rome.
Okay, so this is again a little off topic, and I'm sorry to keep bringing us off topic, but I guess my question is like, if Aya is back in Assassin's Creed 2, I am just wondering like how far out do you think that they've like planned all the games?
I think that what happened is, so she's in there as Amunet.
Oh, okay.
So it's not Aya. And you learn this in Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Bayek and Aya do not want their names attached to the history of the Assassins and the Hidden Ones. So they use a bunch of code names and like don't want to do that. So she's known as Amunet. So I think post-thing they said, oh, well, there's this assassin that we know we already said was responsible for the death of Cleopatra. So let's just put her and rework her into the story. Is probably what happened. But that's good writing on Ubisoft's part of making that connection. And you can see it. And it's not the first time they've done it, because you also, as I talked about the Artabanas group, Artabanas, who's also known as Darius, he is also one of the 6 assassins that you find. So back on it, as you can imagine, Genghis Khan's sons and the other leaders of the Mongols, who are Templar agents, are not happy that Altair led to the death of Genghis Khan. So, the Mongols in 1256 attack Masyaf. They sack it, and this results in the Assassins Brotherhood kind of being wiped out from that. The destruction of that brotherhood, the Levanthian Brotherhood. Altair ends up locking himself in a secure vault underneath Masyaf, where he just sits there and dies, waiting with memory seals. So at this point, the Templars think they've won, that they've kind of eradicated. They've dealt a huge blow to the Assassins. The Assassins have spent the last 100 years, 50 years, kind of trying to rebuild their power. And with the Mongols, they're gone. Altair is dead. They think, okay, that will end it. But the Assassins are more resilient than that. So the Assassins decide to continue their existence, to kind of restart over and go back from this whole work in the shadows to serve the light. To not be that. But they're not totally detached from the idea of being in power and like having influence of people with power. So French assassins, and you can see the results of this in Assassin's Creed Unity, they assert influence over Pope Clement V and King Philip IV of France. And they influence them to move again the established organization of the Knights Templar, which is the kind of face of the Templar Order. So they kind of move them to eradicate them as a group. They storm a Templar temple in Paris, kill the Grand Master. They burn him at the stake. It's a big whole ordeal. The Templar Order, the Knights Templar Order, is declared illegal and a heretical group under Pope Clement. Which we'll have to fact check me on this, but I believe is an actual historical event. That the Knights Templar are declared heretics by Pope Clement.
Yeah. I don't know.
But we'll have to fact check that. And so after that, the Assassins fight the Templars. It's more of this. It's like struggles for power and things, you know. The Templars take the papacy, the Assassins take the Pope. They are putting up leaders and all of these things. You don't really have... The problem is, like, it's hard to conceptualize because the countries as we know them don't really exist yet. Like, England is kind of getting there on its, like, one country. But, like, Italy as we know it, Germany, France, like, these established countries are not, like... they're not there on. There's not this centralized leadership that is happening. Like, for example, we see a lot, like, in Assassin's Creed 2, we go to Florence and we go to Venice and Rome. Like, the leader of Venice and the leader of Florence don't have to listen to each other, and neither of them have to listen to the leader wherever. I mean, they're beholden to the Pope a little bit because of Christianity, but you know what I'm saying. And like, there's all these German princes that contain their own. They basically rule as kings themselves.
Right. It's much more individualistic than it is today. Right.
And regional and other things like that. So there's all these different conflicts and other things like that, and like this events of Assassin's Creed 2 and Revelation all happen kind of in this time. But I think an interesting one is that the 100 Years' War is a conflict between the assassin-controlled France and the Templar-controlled England. Which, if you all know, like the 100 Years' War is really, when you learn about it in history, it's kind of this movement between Protestant and Catholic a little bit.
Yeah, I definitely see that.
Yeah. And so, which would make sense that, at this point, both would be Protestant at this point during the 100 Years' War, depending on who is queen or king of England. So it is kind of like that thing, but you can see like Ubisoft really sets it up for them to put different political figures in each group easily. Like, you could totally see like them putting someone like Martin Luther as actually an assassin, like, because he's very much about the freedom of the people and moving against the Pope and all of that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So I think it's interesting the way they're setting that up. It's really open-ended for them to kind of take anywhere they want, no matter what era of history they pick to set these games in. So after kind of Renaissance gets taken care of and the events of the games happen, the Borgias rise and fall to power, which, spoiler for Shelby, the Borgias are Templars, a huge Templar family.
Look, it's not really that much of a spoiler, because at this point, I'm just assuming that everyone in history was either an assassin or a Templar, so.
It's not a bad assumption, or that they at least had some kind of contact with them. And so then we're moving into this new world era. And this is where I think that the Assassins really kind of hit their stride of like the groups of people that they want to identify with. So as the New World period, which for history buffs, that's the period of colonization from 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue, to the American Revolution. And even really beyond into imperialism. So during this period, the Assassins do take a part in that, but Assassin Brotherhoods start popping up among the indigenous tribes of the Caribbean, which I think is interesting that this ideology comes about these people that are being colonized. And through various conflicts in different games, depending on where you are, the Assassins Brotherhood is fighting against Spain, France, and England. In all of these kind of colonization. Really more Spain and England, because they're the ones that are kind of colonizing that area, whereas France has Haiti a little bit, and then up north in Canada, which So that's when the events of Black Flag begin to take place. And so the Assassins continue to operate in various countries and influence the world, and this follows everything from the events of AC Rogue, 3, Unity, and Syndicate, up until we're going to enter the modern day. But before that, I think we need to take a break and go to the middle of our show.
Yeah, absolutely.
You want to do that? All right, well, let's do that.
A massage chair might seem a bit extravagant, especially these days. 8 different settings, adjustable intensity, plus it's heated. and it just feels so good. Yes, a massage chair might seem a bit extravagant, but when it can come with a car, suddenly it seems quite practical. The all-new 2025 Volkswagen Tiguan, packed with premium features like available massaging front seats, it only feels extravagant.
Prime delivery is fast. How fast are we talking? We're talking puzzle toys and lick pad delivered so fast you can get this puppy under control fast. We're talking chew toys at your door without really waiting fast. Pee pads, cooling mat, and peg hammer fast and fast. And there's training TREATS faster than you can say sit fast. And now we can all relax and order these matching hoodies to get cozy and cute fast. Fast free delivery. It's on Prime.
This episode is brought to you by FX's Alien Earth, the official podcast. Each week, host Adam Rogers is joined by guests, including the show's creator, cast, and crew, in this exclusive companion podcast. They will explore story elements, deep dive into character motivations, and offer an episode-by-episode behind-the-scenes breakdown of each terrifying chapter in this new series. Search FX's Alien Earth wherever you listen to podcasts.
This message is sponsored by Greenlight. With school out, summer is the perfect time to teach our kids real-world money skills they'll use forever. Greenlight is a debit card and the #1 family finance and safety app used by millions of families, helping kids learn how to save, invest, and spend wisely. Parents can send their kids money and track their spending and saving, while kids build money confidence and skills in fun ways. Start your risk-free Greenlight trial today at greenlight.com/Spotify. That's greenlight.com/Spotify.
Hit pause on whatever you're listening to and hit play on your next adventure. Stay 2 nights and get a $50 Best Western gift card. Life's a trip. Make the most of it at Best Western. Visit bestwestern.com for complete terms and conditions.
Who are we? We've been so blessed to share our stories like this.
Okay, well, welcome to the middle of our show. This is where usually we thank our patrons and all of our listeners and everyone who supports us and give you any kind of pertinent information that you might need about the show. Right now, we don't have a Patreon, but if you love our podcast and would like to support us financially, let us know if you want us to have one, and we'll think about getting one. But since we are a new podcast, one of the #1 ways to support us right now is to share our podcast with other people. If you have friends that love Assassin's Creed, tell them about us. If you have social media, share our posts. And another thing that is super, super helpful is ratings and reviews. So on our other podcast, the Dragon Age Lorecast, something we do in the middle of the show is we read out every single 5-star review we ever get. And we're going to do the same thing on the Assassin's Creed Lorecast. So it would be super helpful to us, especially since we're a new podcast, if you could rate and review us on Apple or on Spotify. And like I said, we'll read out all of those reviews on the show. And you know what? I think I'm just going to tell you why it's important to rate and review podcasts. Obviously, it makes us feel good when we see that people enjoy our show, but more important than that, high ratings and a good number of ratings tell new listeners, potential new listeners, that this is a good show. This is a show worth listening to. So if, we're just sitting out there with 0 ratings and reviews, people might skip over us that might love us. So if you do like our podcast, leave us a review and a rating on Spotify and Apple if you would be so kind. And Austin, I think that's everything we have to talk about in the middle of the show, unless I am forgetting something.
Yeah, I think that's it. Again, all of that. And I just want to kind of add that we love to talk about this stuff. One of the reasons we do this is to meet other people and talk to them about these games that we love. So if you want to join the Robots Radio Discord or our personal Discord that you can find in the episode description, that's a great place to come and talk to us. We're on both places. If you join the Robots Radio Discord, there's a bunch of other podcasts that you can get plugged into a community. And that's kind of why we do this, really, is because we like talking about video games.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, you ready to get back into it?
Let's get back.
True knowledge exists in knowing that you know nothing.
All right. So we're kind of at the modern era. And we kind of talked about like what the assassins were doing kind of in the 20th century last week with the formation of the Animus and the Die Glock, the bell, and all of that stuff and that history of the Animus. Because that's really what drives the 20th century, is this ability to relive memories and the chase for the piece of Eden. But there is a very defining moment that happens at the end of the 20th century. And it is called the Great Purge.
That doesn't sound good.
It is not, at least for the assassins. So you might have heard reference to this in other games. You might have heard callbacks to other things like that. And you might even be wondering as you're playing the games, like, okay, all these are established groups in history. And even like as late, I mean, Syndicate takes place at the turn of the century. There's a DLC that takes place during World War I. So you might be asking yourself, why are they so little assassins in the modern day storyline? And this is why. In 1989, Hannah Mueller, an assassin, brought Daniel Cross, who, if you remember from our Animus episode, is Subject 4. She thought he was a confused assassin. She brings him to an assassin compound in Philadelphia, where the compound's director, kind of a mentor era, which is kind of like where in the assassin's hierarchy, that is their thing, their highest person, believed it was destiny. Cross was brought there to join the Brotherhood, which Cross does not is not buying all that. He sneaks away from Mueller to get some kind of medication, in that he experiences a bleeding effect vision. And he believes it is now his mission to find this mentor. So he joins the assassins and kind of goes through all of this things of initiation and do that. And from the moment that the mentor, Paul Bettany, hands him his hidden blade, an Abstergo Templar trigger happens, and Daniel Cross assassinates the mentor, and ushers in the Great Purge, what's called the Great Purge, which is like through Daniel Cross, the Templars are able to gain access and information to the assassins' locations, their safe houses, their headquarters, their kind of places where they raise assassins and train them, their training facilities, and they just go through and they start eradicating all of the assassins.
Wow. So how do they get access to all of this?
Everything is networked together. So the assassins in the state of chaos, the Templars gain the upper hand, and this all happens in the presidential election of 2000, which allows the Templars to install their puppet, which, this is the in-lore universe. I'm not saying anything about this person or about whatever, but their puppet is George W. Bush. And it makes me believe that Dick Cheney is a Templar.
I would believe that. It's really interesting to me that they even put that in the games, because I just feel like they don't do modern history.
Well, it's not in the games, it's in comics.
Oh, okay.
So.
Still interesting. I feel like they don't do modern history. So, I don't know.
So, this kind of sets us up to where we need to go.
Okay.
So in the following years, the Templars continue to hunt down the assassins to thin out their numbers. So in 2002, the Daniel Cross infiltrates a secret library and retrieves the Prophet's Codex, from which the Templars learned about Desmond and his importance to the first civilization. So this is an important information. So the Prophet's Codex is found in Assassin's Creed 2, and it talks about a prophet. And it would have mentioned Desmond because, and this gets into Isu technology, when Ezio talks to Minerva, she mentions Desmond by name.
That's interesting.
As if they can see in the future. So this leads Warren Vidic to attempt to kidnap Desmond so that they can use him for the Animus Project.
Does that kidnapping attempt work?
Yes. I mean, that's how Assassin's Creed 1 happens. They bring him to the Abstergo facility. And then he escapes with the help of Lucy Stillman, who is sent by William Miles to infiltrate Abstergo for the Animus Project. And up until then, the Assassins continue to operate with limited resources and off the grid to subvert Templar influence. Mm-hmm. You can see these in the modern day times of the games. And they really have not bounced back from the Great Purge yet.
Wow. So the Great Purge started in 98?
Yeah. So it's been 30 years. They're kind of bouncing back.
Not even 30 years.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Like not even 25 years.
Right. So.
Yeah.
So before we end today, I think it's important we need to talk about what the Assassins believe.
Absolutely.
Okay. So this is the Creed. The games are called Assassin's Creed. This is the Assassin's Creed. Stay your blade from the flesh of an innocent. Hide in plain sight. Be one with the crowd. Work in the shadows to serve the light. Never compromise the Brotherhood. So those are kind of the core beliefs of the Assassins. And they also operate under this mantra: nothing is true and everything is permitted, which we'll kind of get into when I get into kind of what they believe about all kinds of things. Okay. So the first thing to note about the Assassins in their beliefs is that they are very empirical. And that's empirical with an E. Mm-hmm. So kind of relating to that they believe in this kind of rationalism. Even though they have a set of ideals that they talk about, it's based on rationalism and knowing what they know. And so a unique viewpoint that before you can devise a specific code of ethics or belief system, you must approach the world from a chiefly scientific standpoint, untempered by bias such as subjective products of morality or faith. So this kind of gets into their kind of agnostic atheism into that.
Yeah, I see that.
Right, I don't. Knowledge should be obtained first and foremost through strict objective reasoning.
I feel like that doesn't really jive with what I've seen of the Assassins so far.
Well, hold on. And this is what comes about it. Altair argues, Altair argues that true or full objectivity is unreachable.
It is.
And I agree with him. And he argues and reframes this kind of thing that the only thing that we can be for sure that we know is that we know nothing.
Mm-hmm. You know nothing, Jon Snow.
Right. Which is interesting. And so that's kind of where with the maxim kind of thing that is nothing is true and everything is permitted.
Mm-hmm.
Which is kind of where you get with that kind of things going on with all of that. But with this kind of empiricalism, and this is kind of where we get in this, is also this idea of humanitarianism. And this is the belief that the assassins exist for the betterment of humankind. Mm-hmm. Actually, both the Templars and assassins believe this is their purpose. They serve for the betterment of humankind.
That's fascinating to me. And you can make the argument that, I think you can make the argument that both of them, especially the Templars, but both of them are a detriment to humankind because they go around murdering people all the time.
Right. And this is a point that kind of raises up. Altair really questions the creed, which he kind of stubs in. We're going to get into the creed exists in paradox and their maxim exists in paradox. And we'll get into that. But this is kind of what he says about, the condition of humanity and everything. It's what can be done to stop this? This being the human condition, the violence, all the stuff. To encourage tolerance and equality. Some days we speak of education, believing that knowledge will free us from immorality. But as I walk the streets and see slaves sent off to auction, my heart grows cold when I see the husband hurl abuse and stones at his wife, insisting she exists only to serve him. My fists clench, and when I see children torn from their parents so that another man might profit, sent off to suffer beneath the desert sun and die. On these days, I do not think that dialogue will make a difference. On these days, I think only of how the perpetrator need to die. Mm. Which really kind of gets to Altair's point of there's a limit to this objectivism. And if we're going to truly serve and better humankind, we have to do something about their suffering.
Yeah, he's right. I just want to say same.
Right. And you see this in a lot of places that get into points they argue against these established norms, and assassins are always kind of questioning and pushing we're not working for freedom enough. For example, Connor Kenway really pushes the American Revolution. It's you cannot say you fight for freedom while you enslave people. Mm-hmm. Which is a unique perspective because Connor is a person of color.
He's indigenous, right?
Yes. And so he sees all of that kind of going on. So this kind of things that obviously there's some critiques that come about this maxim of the assassins, especially from Templars, which makes sense, and even from laymen, people who are that.
People who are what?
Who are not involved with the assassins things, Assassin Brotherhood or the Templars, who kind of tilt their head at the assassins' understanding. And they think that their ideology borders on nihilism and self-gratification, which is what the assassins say is a misunderstanding of the maxim, nothing is true, everything is permitted.
Yeah.
Which the pirate Edward Kenway, when he's early, he shows that he interprets everything is permitted to chase every desire. Templar James Wardrop, in his dying words, says, if everything is permitted, nothing is safe. Implying that the maxim calls for hedonism. Scholarly woman to Ezio, Sophia Sator to Ezio Auditore, remarks that the creed operates on a cynicism.
It does. I think that's true, but isn't the world cynical about everything? I don't know. I guess I get their ideology it emerges from a place of necessity.
Right.
Because go ahead.
Well, no, keep going.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say is we do have assassins responding to this. And Altair remarks often this is the case with young assassins. Mm-hmm. But Ezio explains to Sophia, he says that the creed itself is more akin to an observation rather than doctrine. Mm-hmm. And therefore, it's not meant to be followed nor obeyed, but merely understood. And so when Edward Kenway promotes it to the mentor, Artabai, Artabai retorts back to him, it might be that this idea that everything is permitted is only the beginning of a wisdom, not its final form.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Right. So it's a thing about like they're treating something as a doctrine that's not a doctrine, is the assassin's point.
Yeah.
And the point of like what is really they're trying to say with the concept that nothing is true is that laws, systems of morality, and all of these come from a human standpoint and therefore is inherently flawed because it's behind some kind of agenda. And so nothing is true and everything isn't permitted is understanding that the world is not what it appears to be.
Yeah, because there's always someone hidden.
Right.
There's always something. There's always someone behind a mask.
And it kind of symbolizes to me, the Assassin's Creed understands a sort of relativism to the world.
Relativism?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of like their core beliefs. I would do their structure, but it's so varied between brotherhoods, like different sects, that it's hard to do that. But almost always there is a mentor over a brotherhood, and they're called a mentor.
Interesting.
And mentors are recognized as mentors across brotherhoods is an important thing.
Okay.
So, like, when Ezio goes to Constantinople, the Constantinople assassins recognize him as mentor.
Right.
Because he's mentor of the Roman assassins.
Yeah.
The Italian assassins. And there's different stages into initiation. You can be born into the Assassins Brotherhood, such as Desmond, Ezio, Altair. They're born into the Assassins. Or you can be recruited, like Connor Kenway, Sean Hastings, Edward Kenway. Like, all these people are recruited into the Assassins.
Okay.
But no matter what, there's always a point of, like, you don't just join the Assassins and, hello, here's your hidden blade, and you're amazing. There's a period of, like, training and learning the ropes and all of those kind of things. And assassins take different forms. Not all of them are the parkour experts that jump around and do everything. Some are historians, some are tech experts, some are, politicians. They serve all kinds of functions.
And that makes their order stronger.
And that's what the Templars do as well, is what I was going to say.
Well, do we have anything else to talk about with the Assassins?
I think that's it. I just know that I'm partial to the Assassins. I think they're obviously like the protagonist and the people we're supposed to sympathize with. Even though I do love Assassin's Creed Rogue and I like learning kind of the Templar perspective, I think that Assassins are where I would want to be.
Yeah. I think I agree with you, even though I haven't played all the games yet. But.
Right. But that's all. I'm also American, so this idea of like safeguarding freedom is something that jives with the culture I was brought up in.
Yeah, true. Well, thank you for listening to the Assassin's Creed Lorecast. We'll see you next week.
Yes, all right. Thank you. Thanks for listening to the Assassin's Creed Lorecast. You can find us on Twitter at Assassin's Creed Lorecast, or you could talk to us on Discord in the Robots Radio Discord or our personal Discord server. Both links found in this episode's descriptions. Thank you for listening, and always stay to the shadows to serve the light, Assassins.
How well do you know your video game lovers? Have you ever wondered how your video game bays stack up against all the other delectable digital dates?
I'm Genesis, the girl whose motto in life is love, laugh, tequila. And on Two Girls, One Ship, we analyze, rate, and review all that the world of video game romances has to offer.
And I'm Vervada, the hopeless romantic cat lady and lifelong gamer.
But you should know that our podcast centers on character and romance analysis and doesn't shy away from exploring the fun of physical connection.
Or from the deep emotional connections built between two characters, using specific in-game dialogue and the overall narrative journey. So join the Two Girls, One Ship shipsters, and remember,
beauty is in the eye of the controller.